real to me.
Picture this. You're at the top of the world. Your song is number one in America. Millions of people know your name. You're living the dream that every kid wishes for. But then, almost 40 years later, you're lying in a hospital bed, weighing just 90 pounds, waiting to die. This is a heartbreaking story of Shelley Fabares. And trust me, you're not ready for how sad this gets. Most people remember Shelley as the sweet daughter from the Donna Reed show, or the girl who sang that famous song, Johnny Angel. But what happened behind the cameras was nothing like the perfect life she played on TV. Her story is one of broken dreams, family secrets, and a fight for survival that would make even the strongest person give up. But somehow, she never did. Let me take you back to where it all started, and I promise you'll never look at childhood stardom the same way again. Shelley Fabares was born in 1944 in Santa Monica, California, right in the middle of World War II. Her mom, Elsa, had dreams of making it big in Hollywood as a dancer, but life had other plans. Her dad, James, worked selling houses, and money was always tight. But Elsa wasn't going to let poverty stop her from getting her daughter into show business. When Shelley was just 2 years old, her mom started taking her to movie sets. Can you imagine? A tiny toddler walking around Hollywood, watching actors work, copying everything they did. That's how young she was when this whole crazy journey began. But then, when Shelley was only 3, everything fell apart. Her parents got divorced, and it wasn't pretty. There were fights about money, rumors about cheating, and poor little Shelley was stuck in the middle of it all. She used to hide under beds when her parents would scream at each other, cry herself to sleep night after night. Her mom got custody, but only received $50 a month to take care of Shelley. That's like $700 today, which might sound like a lot, but try raising a kid on that. They had to move from one tiny apartment to another all over Los Angeles. Sometimes they had nothing for dinner, except one can of soup to share. Shelley wore hand-me-down clothes and learned way too young what it felt like to go without. When Shelley was 4, her mom put her to work as a model. She posed for Sears catalogs and earned just $5 per photo shoot. $5 for a whole day of work. But her family was so desperate that every single dollar mattered. By the time she was 6, she had already done 15 modeling jobs and lived in 7 different apartments. School was a nightmare for Shelley. She had a little list from a childhood accident, and the kids were cruel about it. They called her Stutter Shelley and made fun of her every single day. In 1952, one bully pushed her so hard that she broke her arm. Can you imagine being 8 years old, dealing with bullies, living in poverty, and already working to help support your family? But the worst part was what was happening at home. Shelley's mom, Elsa, was struggling with serious depression. Sometimes she would have complete breakdowns, throwing dishes and screaming. In 1950, when Shelley was just 6, her mom had to be taken to the hospital. 2 years later, 8-year-old Shelley found her mother after she had tried to take her own life. Think about that for a second. An 8-year-old child finding her mom like that. Her Aunt Nanette, who was an actress, helped keep it secret from everyone, even Shelley's younger siblings. But Shelley knew she carried that horrible memory with her for the rest of her life. Despite all this pain, Shelley found escape in acting. She joined drama classes after school and discovered that when she was performing, she could forget about all the sadness at home. In 1954, she won her school talent show by doing a dramatic speech, and for the first time in her life, she felt strong and proud. That same year, when she was 10, she got her first TV role on the Loretta Young Show. Everyone was amazed when she did a crying scene perfectly in just one take. The famous actress Loretta Young was so impressed, she gave Shelley a necklace as a gift. But getting that role wasn't easy. Shelley had been turned down 20 times before someone finally said yes. The work was exhausting for a little kid. Children weren't supposed to work more than 4 hours a day, but Shelley often worked twice that long. She was tired all the time, but she loved being on camera. It was the one place where she felt safe and special. In 1955, she got to act a movie called The Girl Rush with her Aunt Nanette. They filmed it in Las Vegas during a terrible heat wave with temperatures over 100 degrees. Shelley actually fainted from the heat, but she kept working. She had to do complicated dance numbers, even though she had never been trained to dance. And for all that hard work, she earned just $100, while the movie made over $1 million. Her big break came in 1958 when she was 14. She got a major role in a Disney series called Annette alongside the famous Annette Funicello. 10 million people watched that show every week, and suddenly Shelley was a teen star. But the work days were brutal, sometimes 16 hours long, and she only got 3 hours of actual school time with tutors. Then came the Donna Reed show, the role that would make her famous around the world. From 1958 to 1963, she played Mary Stone, the perfect daughter on America's favorite family TV show. Up to 20 million people watched every week, and everyone loved sweet, innocent Mary. But here's the thing that breaks my heart. While Shelley was playing the perfect daughter on TV, her real life was still full of pain. She was shy and quiet, missing out on being a normal teenager. She worked 12-hour days and barely had any friends her own age. In 1962, something amazing happened that changed everything. The producers of the Donna Reed show decided to have Shelley sing a song in one episode. That song was called Johnny Angel, and even though Shelley didn't think she could really sing, it became the #1 song in all of America. Can you believe that? Here's this 18-year-old girl who started life in poverty, dealt with family tragedy, and worked since she was a toddler, and suddenly she has the biggest hit song in the country. Johnny Angel stayed at #1 for 2 weeks and sold over 1 million copies. She was famous as both an actress and a singer, but fame came with a price. Her record company decided to create fake romances to keep her in the headlines. They set up pretend dates with other celebrities and made up stories about her love life. Shelley hated every minute of it. She was still just a teenager, and all the lies and gossip made her feel used and dirty. By 1963, everything started to change. The Beatles were taking over the music world, and Shelley's songs weren't popular anymore. During one concert at the Hollywood Bowl, thousands of screaming fans rushed the stage, and Shelley was almost trampled. Security couldn't control the crowd, and she had to be rushed off the stage. It was terrifying, and it showed her how dangerous teen fame could be. She decided to focus on movies instead. She made several films with Elvis Presley in the 1960s, including Girl Happy and Clambake. People started rumors that she and Elvis were dating in real life, which wasn't true, but the gossip followed her everywhere. In 1964, she married music producer Lou Adler, hoping to find some stability and happiness. But that marriage was doomed from the start. There were rumors that Lou was cheating on her with other famous women, and emotional pain was devastating. They separated after just 2 years, though they didn't officially divorce until 1980. Through all of this, Shelley never had children, which was something she rarely talked about publicly. Some people think health problems might have made it impossible for her, and that added another layer of sadness to her life. But then, in 1984, something wonderful happened. She married actor Mike Farrell, and he became the love of her life. Mike was kind, supportive, and genuinely cared about her happiness. For the first time since childhood, Shelley felt truly safe with someone. From 1989 to 1997, she starred in a hit TV show called Coach, playing a smart, strong character named Christine Armstrong. The role earned her 2 Emmy nominations, and it seemed like her life was finally coming together. She was in her 40s, happily married, and successful in her career. But then, in 1994, everything changed in an instant. Shelley was at home while some construction work was being done on the house. She was just walking around normally when suddenly, the floor gave way underneath her. She fell hard through broken wooden beams and crashed down with such force that she shattered every rib on the left side of her body. She was rushed to the hospital, barely able to move and in terrible pain. The doctors treated her broken ribs, but while she was there, they discovered something much more frightening. Her liver enzymes were dangerously high, and nobody knew why. For 5 years, Shelley quietly lived with this mystery illness. She took medication that helped a little, but her liver numbers stayed scary high. She kept working on Coach, but she felt sick all the time. Something was seriously wrong, and it was getting worse. Then, In early 1999, the nightmare became real. Shelley collapsed after massive internal bleeding. She was rushed to the hospital, and doctors finally figured out what had been killing her slowly for years. She had autoimmune hepatitis, a disease where her own immune system was attacking her liver. And now, her liver was failing. At 55 years old, Shelley heard words that would haunt anyone. She would die without a liver transplant. There were no other options. Another bleeding episode could kill her instantly. She was put on the transplant waiting list in April 1999, knowing that more than half the people on that list don't survive long enough to get a new organ. What followed were the darkest 22 months of her entire life. Shelley weighed just 90 pounds and could barely stay awake. She slept most of the day because her body simply didn't have the energy to function. Sometimes she would wake up desperately thirsty, but couldn't even walk to the kitchen for a glass of water. Every single day, she knew she might die. The emotional torture was almost worse than the physical pain. Her page would go off with wrong numbers, and for a split second, she would think an organ was available, only to have her hopes crushed again. She and Mike lived in constant fear, knowing how many people die waiting for transplants that never come. Imagine living like that for almost 2 years. Every morning, wondering if this would be your last day. Too weak to do anything but exist. Watching your husband try to stay strong while his heart is breaking watching you fade away. Finally, on October 23rd, 2000, the call came. A liver was available. Shelley was rushed into surgery, and the transplant saved her life. But even then, she almost died. Right after the operation, her body was attacked by serious infections. Her immune system was fighting the new liver, and doctors weren't sure she would make it. Mike helped her with everything. Bathing, eating, walking. The infections nearly killed her again, and recovery took every ounce of strength she had left. She had survived, but she was forever changed. Throughout all of this medical hell, Shelley was also dealing with another heartbreaking situation. Her mother, Elsa, had been battling Alzheimer's disease for 9 years before dying in 1992. Watching her mom slowly forget who she was, forget her own daughter's name, was agony. But instead of retreating from the world, Shelley turned her pain into purpose. She became a national spokesperson for the Alzheimer's Association and spoke to Congress 4 times to fight for more research funding. She helped raise millions of dollars and open an Alzheimer's center to help other families going through the same nightmare. After her liver transplant, she became an advocate for organ donation too. She spoke at medical conferences and told people exactly how close she had come to dying. She explained that one organ donor could save or improve 50 lives, and she never stopped thanking the family who gave her a second chance at life. In the 2000s, Shelley did something that surprised everyone. She dyed her hair bright pink and styled it into a punk-inspired spiky cut. At 79 years old, she was making a statement. The sweet girl from the Donna Reed show had become a survivor, and she wanted the world to know it. People would see her walking into events wearing Ziggy Stardust sweatshirts, her pink hair blazing like a flag of victory. She had faced death and come back brighter, bolder, and more herself than ever before. But the challenges weren't over. In late 2024, when Shelley was 80 years old, she suffered a minor stroke. Once again, she was rushed to the hospital. Once again, Mike was by her side. And once again, somehow, she recovered completely. Today, in 2025, Shelley Fabares is 81 years old. She lives quietly in Los Angeles with Mike, her husband of over 40 years. They were recently spotted walking hand in hand in a Burbank park. Shelley with pink streaks in her blonde hair, flashing a peace sign at the cameras. She looked frail, but her spirit was still shining bright. That walk reminded everyone of everything she had survived. The poverty, the abuse, the broken family, the failed marriage, the liver disease, the transplant, the infections, the stroke, and still, she walked. When you think about Shelley Fabares' life, it's easy to focus on all the tragedy. The little girl who started working at age 4 to help feed her family. The teenager who found her mother after a suicide attempt. The young woman who was used by Hollywood and had fake romances created for publicity. The middle-aged woman who nearly died waiting for an organ transplant. But here's what amazes me about her story. Through every single tragedy, every heartbreak, every moment when giving up would have been easier, Shelley kept going. She turned her pain into purpose, helping other families dealing with Alzheimer's and fighting for organ donation awareness. She found true love with Mike Farrell after a devastating first marriage. She carved out a successful acting career that lasted decades. She survived a disease that kills most people. And at 81, she's still here, still fighting, still inspiring people with her strength. Shelley Fabares' story is sad, yes, but it's also one of the most incredible examples of human resilience I've ever heard. She shows us that no matter how many times life knocks you down, no matter how impossible things seem, there's always hope. There's always a reason to keep fighting. From that little girl hiding under the bed during her parents' fights to the pink-haired survivor walking through the park with her loving husband, Shelley Fabares has lived a life that proves the human spirit is stronger than any tragedy. Her story reminds us that behind every smiling face on TV, there might be unimaginable pain. But it also reminds us that survival is possible, love is real, and sometimes the people who suffer the most become the strongest advocates for helping others. If this story moved you as much as it moved me, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear about Shelley's incredible strength. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of Hollywood's biggest stars. Because everyone deserves to have their full story told, not just the pretty parts we see on screen. Shelley Fabares is a survivor, a fighter, and a true inspiration. Her tragedy is heartbreaking, but her triumph over it all is absolutely beautiful.